So I just wanted to show you these before I put them back in to clean them. Okay, so I did these in pickling acid yesterday and I didn't clean them off. I wanted to see after 20 odd hours the difference or how badly the corrosion is, just to give you an idea. So you can see they were fairly clean. Yesterday somebody mentioned that there wasn't a good enough close-up, so I'm going to do that now. But you can see there how rusty that, I'll try and get out the light. You can see how rusty that piece is there. I'll take the spring back, and that's just from the pickling vinegar. That was completely clean yesterday, not shiny, but it was clean, and you can see roughly how the the different. I'll keep out this light. Maybe I can zoom in. Huh? Yeah. So I think you get the picture there about how corroded they are, and that's leaving it for about 20 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it for 30 minutes, which I'm not going to film, but I will film it opening again, and then that'll be the end of it. But you can watch the other two, like I said, the homemade parts cleaner part 1 and 2, and I'll show you when I clean out, and then when I get them out I'll neutralise them, and then I'll clean them up and let you have a look. Once again, I don't want to go over this really again, but just to let you see, I've actually taken it was knackered anyway. I took this old rubber off the bottom, but it was buggered anyway, and put it straight onto the metal. It's a bit more noisier, but you have to suffer for your art, as it were. So again, I'll pop this in. Let's go that way. Somebody mentioned I hadn't done a close-up, so I wanted to do that now, and I'm going to put it on the front here. What I did do was take these two bigger pieces of the carburetor out, because I think they were getting in the way of it vibrating around. So yeah, so there you go. This has been about 45 minutes. There you go. You saw, you've already seen in the video how when I put them in, I left them in the vinegar to go rusty again. That's only surface rust, of course, but that seems to be it. And now you can see how good that is. There, this one, this is unbelievably good. There are the pins, the main pins, look almost brand new. These are rusted to hell. Look at that brass. Okay, like I say, it's a banjo unit I don't need, but again, you can see how clean that is now. And there's nothing wrong with any of that, it's absolutely spot on the money. So there you go. I hope that's going to show up. Maybe I'll bring it back a bit. That's maybe better in there. Yeah, but I mean that was rusted right through that. So what I'll do now is I'll neutralise these, and then I'll dry them off, and we're good to go. So you've seen the shots of before and after. The only two things I would say is, I mean, if you've got a sander and this is in good condition, don't take it off, leave it onto the rubber, it'll make it less noisy, and just leave it on maybe a little bit longer. But this was knackered, so I took it off, but the noise is quite hard because it's metal to metal now. I could always put something else on it, another piece of rubber. The other thing I found is that the vibration on it, since I took the rubber off, it's taken too much vibration out of it, and it started to damage the end. You can probably see that the threads have gone on the plastic, so something else might be a better way of doing it, some kind of clip or whatever. But it's done the job, so that's the main thing. So that's it for this. Quickly go over a couple of things. These carburetors, I mentioned that they come from an E-type. That was wrong, they didn't come from an E-type, because an E-type doesn't have an automatic solenoid. It doesn't have a solenoid to operate. the throttle, sorry, the choke. It's a manual choke on any type. These have come from a Mark 10 Jaguar, which are pretty much the same. The only difference on these and the XK is that these bolts here, you can see that they've got springs on them, and for some reason they put, when they put them on, because there's a gasket and then a small flange, which I guess is for heat transference, and then another one, and I think they put these springs on so you don't over tighten them, but they're not required on an XK, but they are from a Mark 10 Jag, and you can see the paint on this. Somebody's painted it, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to clean all that off before I refurbish it. What I'll have to do is I'll drill this brass inside here where the stop is. There's a brass pin, and I'll drill that out, take this out, because I have to pin and cork. It comes with a spring, a copper top, and a cork gasket which fits over the shaft, and it stops air being sucked in the side. And I'll show you that when I come to it, but that'll be a while away. This unfortunately had a broken stem in it. These things are 106 pounds on their own, this fuel bowl. And this is a common problem. Two common problems with these fuel bowls, on all of them, minis as well, is this shaft where the float goes up and down on, and the top is put back on here, are terrible for snapping. So if you can, make sure you immerse these in some kind of fluid for a few days or weeks if you have to. Once it snaps, that's it, you're done. And I say they're 106 pounds each. And as I say, this one snapped off. I tried to get it out with an easy out, but I've gone undersized with the drill so I can re-tap it for the new piece that goes in. So there's a couple of tips there. I'm going to show you one last thing before we finish, and that's on the bell that sits onto the piston. And I'm just going to show you something how I'll set it up. One thing I wanted to mention was, if you're doing something like this in a drill, try and make sure you centralise it. If it's off at an angle, it'll jump all over the place and it'll ruin the belt, ruin the motor, bearings and everything, and it's very difficult to work on. So I'll show you what I've done here. This was a shaft. It's just a threaded rod that I had, and I put a locking nut on it so it didn't come out, and I put big washers on the bottom. And the best way to do this is to find a shaft that's almost tolerance fit on the inside, but you don't want to be too much of a fit, because if it slips, what it's going to do is going to damage the inside bit. I wanted to just show you that bit there. You can see how nice it looks compared to, you can see I only did it to here. But you don't want it to, so it damages the inside, because obviously when the piston goes in, it has to be a tolerance fit. So what I've done in this position is I've used tape, and I'll show you now. I'll just pull it apart, and I'll in the vise, and I'll show it to you. Just give me 1 second. Right, so as I say, just take this apart. The other thing is you don't want to clamp it in the jaws of the drill too much, or you're going to damage the thread. You want to get your nut and bolt off. So you can see what I've done there is I've just put tape on it, because even though you can get a fairly tolerance fit in there, you don't want it against the side, because the sleeve will get damaged. And you can see there, it's just basically holding it central. If you don't have that, you're going to have this problem. This is going to move around, it's going to wobble terribly. So that's a way of getting around it. Or rubber. You could even use a bit of rubber hose possibly, and that would do the job as well, as long as the rubber's sitting against it and not metal to metal. So just a little tip there. With anything, if you're putting anything in a drill, get it as central as you possibly can. I know that might sound like common sense, but especially in a drill press where it's going around at high speed. But as I say, if you're doing this kind of work with anything like this, if there's any lugs or something sticking out, be extremely careful. If anything, you could even mark it so you don't put your fingers in it, because if you catch one of these, it will bust your finger, there's no doubt about it. So just be careful. Remember, you're your own safety officer. So just to finish up this video, I wanted to show you the conclusion of that, because there's probably some people that doubt that it's that good. Okay, so this is the bell off the carburetor, and these are the part that show the most, and they look the nicest when they're cleaned up. And sometimes you get a lot of problems with them, but you can imagine standing there holding it, trying to sand it. It takes a long time. So this is a way of doing it. If you can put it in a drill, or a drill in a chuck in a vise, whatever, and you can see that it's running fairly central. The only thing you'd need to be very careful of is these four arms. If they catch your finger, you're going to bust your finger, so you have to be very careful. But it's a way of doing it, and you can actually clean them so much easier. And you can see the difference where I polished that and it's not polished. I think you can see it there already. And that's only with 3M, so you imagine you're going down to 1500 or whatever, and then eventually I put it into a buffer. There's a kit you can buy from Frost Restorations in Lancashire, and they do buffing wheels and buffing compound, and you can buff them up and get them like they're super shiny. They look almost chrome. So that's it for today. Stay safe, keep the faith, and enjoy the hobby. Try a few of these things. If you come up with some ideas, pass them on, and and if you don't want to go on camera, I'll do it myself. If you've got some ideas, somebody mentioned something about using a fish tank pump to maybe agitate the vinegar. Have a go. If it works, do it. And let us know, or do it yourself on a video and let us know. So take care. Bye.